there's a lot of back and forth. Was it how much is Congress constraining President Obama's ability to close Guantanamo, and to a certain extent, very much so. But on another extent, not so much. And the president...
that's the question, is what can he do with Guantanamo unilaterally?
I will tell you.
That's why I come on this show, to learn from you.
Wait,
Sam.
Was that rhetorical or not?
No, I mean, no, it's not. I mean, I know there's a certain amount he can do, but again, I don't know exactly what he can do. So you're going to teach me right now.
He said exactly what he can do. He said exactly what he can do in that speech. And he said that he was going to lift the ban on returning Yemenites to Yemen.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you're talking about 50 people there, which is about 1/3 of the people who are in Guantanamo. He himself said...
lift the ban on returning Yemenites to Yemen. He can probably lift some bans on returning other people to their countries, too.
The point is, the point is, he announced that he was shifting his policy. So
that's a great point. I read this and I didn't even think about that. If he can do that, he can do it with a variety of people.
No. The point is, if he could do that, he could have done that 2 years ago.
Right. Well,
that's the point.
But
we know by the president's own admission exactly what he could do. Would that close Guantanamo? No. But would that deal with 1/3 of the prisoners there? Yes.
And again, there must be people from other countries outside of Yemen where I'm sure we could do that too. They would deal with more of the prisoners. The question becomes, the only place where it becomes more difficult, particularly with Republican obstreperousness and being the way that they are, their nihilism, is the people that legitimately need to be tried because we do think they did something, and how that process would take place.
Well,
but you're right. A lot of Gitmo, and I read that, and I didn't even think about that. So I'm glad that I'm on with you, and you're smarter than I am, which is...
Well, I just read it somewhere myself.
You're right. If he can do that with Yemen, why the hell can't he do that with frankly, that would close down 1/3 of it. But again, my guess is he closed down. I mean, remember that there were the Chinese Muslims that were there. I'm sure there are plenty of people from other countries that could just be sent back.
The other problem is that, according to the administration and his own speech, was that he said something to the effect, even after we take these steps, where he talks about the steps that he can take unilaterally, he says how to deal with those Gitmo detainees who we know have participated in dangerous plots or attacks but cannot be prosecuted, for example, because the evidence against them has been compromised or is inadmissible in a court of law. In other words, the Bush administration tortured these people and got this information through torture or tainted.
Generally, we still determine this country that's not admissible in a court of law.
And good for us. But he says once we commit...
I think that's still our rule anyhow. It may have changed.
And he goes on to say, but once we commit to a process of closing Gitmo, I'm confident that this legacy problem can be resolved consistent with our commitment to the rule of law. The problem is that he's sort of acknowledging we may have 50 people, or whatever that number is.
Well, there's 166 there overall,
right? And we know that about
a third are from Yemen, and now so take them out.
And we know the other half.
There's a few of them that may be guilty, and so we think they're guilty. Then you're looking at, as I said, and I'm rereading this now, so I don't sound like an imbecile. That exactly what I said that I thought he would do. He is saying he'll do, which is sending a senior envoy to other nations to talk about that, to talk to them about taking back. So once you take back those guys, right, you're not talking about a huge number of people here. The problem is, as you pointed out, is what can be admissible in a court of law, and we've now screwed ourselves to the point where people that actually are guilty of things can just go free.
And so we just don't know what's going to happen with that. With all that said, I give him a mixed grade on this because he's admitted to all of us that he had the ability to, at the very least, make Guantanamo 1/3 smaller than it is now. But he is at least articulating a notion and putting some pressure on Congress to close this thing down.